They're quite short presentations, but they are quite important. And when I started last week, people were thinking how to get published, how to write papers, how to get published in journals. But to make a career, as I've kept saying, it's an organic thing. It's got many aspects to it. And a very big aspect is personal communications. And apart from original articles, there are many other ways to have, how do you say, okay, it's an academic achievement, okay, like a paper is an academic achievement. But original articles are not the only way, right? There are others. And as I say here, original articles are very important, but there are many other forms of academic achievements, okay? And some other kinds of academic achievements are as important or maybe more important than original articles. Okay, so today there are 7 of us here in the room. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we can relax and have as. If I'm going too fast, just tell me. If you have a question, just ask me. Okay. And here I list some of them, okay? You have these in your handout, right? Right? Okay. Now, first of all, letter to the editor. This can be you making a comment on a recently published paper in the journal. Maybe you agree with it. Maybe you don't agree with it. Maybe you're criticizing the method. Or you are saying that you have had the same experience. Now, a letter to the editor can be an academic achievement. Also, if you have a new method, but you don't have enough cases to write a full paper, but you want to claim, you want to get credit for originality. You want people to know, oh, Patrick Barron was the first person to suggest doing that. Okay? So I might write in a letter to the editor. In fact, I did that once about the condition of medical English education in Japan. It's the first line of my letter was, medical English education in Japan is chaos. And it was published. But it doesn't need to be as academic as a full paper. And it can also get the reader's attention. And usually you only need 1 or 2 references, or even none. But maximum 1 or 2 is usually enough. And if it is a letter criticizing a previous publication, if it's something criticizing a recently published paper, the authors of the paper are often given a chance to reply in the same issue, right? Smith et al. Report such and such, and I write in and say, I don't agree with Smith et al. Because their selection was bad. And so they send the letter to Smith, and he writes, or she writes a reply, and they appear together. My criticism, their answer back. Okay? Now, an abstract, as I said, is not a real academic achievement, but a letter to the editor can be referred to as an academic publication. Okay? Now, again, a rapid communication is usually less opinion and more scientific. And you want to get out new information that undergoes peer review. Now, this kind of rapid communication really started before the time of the internet. Okay, before the internet, it took a long time for information to get out. Usually, it could take 3/4 of a year or a year to get published, to get accepted, and then another half year to get actually published, 1.5 years. It's a long time to wait. Today, there was one doctor who came to me, a British journal. He sent his paper to them on December 22nd last year. And it came back in May. Now, December 22nd is a very bad time. You get Christmas. Actually, right now, the Americans are in the middle of their holiday season. So, anyway, he made the major revision. He sent it back in July, right? And July to October, July to August, September, October, November. And now we're in December, almost 5 months. They have not come back. It's too long. And even if it probably will be accepted, but even so, it'll be over a year, 1.5 years from his submission to publication. So in those days, for the progress of science to attract readers and to increase the citation index of the journal, they had these rapid communications. The format of rapid communications depends on the journal, so you must carefully read the instructions. And although it undergoes peer review, usually the decision is yes or no. So it's all or none. You don't get a chance to revise. Okay? But one of the advantages is that you can protect your latest research before presenting orally. And I said before, oral presentations are fine. You can present your most recent findings, but you have to protect yourself because there are people who are unscrupulous, who are not honest, and who go around looking to see what they can copy, and then they claim originality. Now, a review article, this is considered a very, very important achievement. Usually it is considered more important than an original article because it's usually invited, but not always. Sometimes you can invite yourself. Now, if you are not invited, you must choose the target journal carefully. In other words, if you want to present a paper on iodine dose and detection of renal lesions, and you want to do a review article on that, well, first of all, you have to check with the journal and make sure that it actually does publish review articles. Most journals do, because review articles usually get cited in other people's papers, so the impact factor goes up. So this is one way that editors have of artificially increasing their impact factor. There are many ways. For example, let's say I'm an editor of a journal, and I have here a very good paper, right? Do I put it in the December issue? Okay, deadline is December 10th. Do I send it into the publisher on December 10th? No. I wait till January 10th. Because then that good paper, for the impact factor, citation for 2 years is calculated. If it's published in December 10th, its first year is 3 weeks, 2013. And then 2014. Then it doesn't matter how often it is cited in 2015. That doesn't count. So I keep the good articles for January, February, and then they are quoted. They're cited all through that year and the next year. So this is how. Any question? So there are many ways that the editors can play around. So one is the review articles will tend to improve the impact factor. So if you have a good review article, you'll probably put it at the beginning of the year. Now, you're looking at the Journal of, American Journal of Kidney Disease. Okay, you look at it and you see, does it publish review articles? It does. Okay, that's good. Now, has it recently published a paper on iodine concentration and detection? Now, if it hasn't, then it might be interested. If it has published one just last year or early this year, it probably will not be interested, so you should look for another journal and look for a topic that it has not published a review article on. Now, usually I say don't bother contacting members of the editorial board. This is for review of papers because they're too busy. But this is a different thing. You're not asking, please publish my paper. You're saying, if I write a good review article on such and such, do you think that your editorial board would consider it? And maybe the person you ask, he's on the editorial board, and he says, no. We only go by invitation only. You have no chance. Okay, good. You go to another journal. Or he might say, yeah, well, there's a chance. I can't guarantee anything, but why not try? And if it's a good article, maybe I'll say something good about it. So if you can contact them about the possibility, you do that. Now, to write a review article is not easy. You really have to make sure that you've got a very wide range of references in order to have a very balanced and objective approach in writing. So you've got to have a very wide range of references, including material you do not agree with. it's okay to say why you don't agree with it. And a review article is often read by many people in the field because it's a quick way of reviewing who's doing what recently. Okay, so instead of reading a lot of different individual articles, this author has put it all together for you in a digest form, so it's easy for you to get the information. So people tend to remember your name. But again, make sure beforehand that the journal is willing to consider your review article. And so the level of the English has to be very high. Now, a book chapter. Writing a book or a book chapter is not that difficult. And this is something that young people often forget. Now, I remember I was at a lung cancer meeting a long time ago, and there was this guy, young guy, he was about 32, my age at the time. His name was Mark Schwartz. He was at Harvard. And it was sort of a big symposium seminar. And 1 year later, I saw a book, Lung Cancer, Mark Schwartz. Wow, he's only 33 now, right? And all he'd done was he'd gone to 15 people at symposium, said, you're presenting on diagnostic aspects of lung cancer. Could you write a chapter on a book about diagnostic imaging? And you're doing MRI findings. Could you write a chapter? And everybody in that book had been at that meeting. And I thought, oh, that's a good idea. So right now, I'm in the middle of assembling a book on interventional pulmonology. That's like video-assisted thoracic surgery or bronchoscopic navigation, robotic navigation. I don't know anything about robotic navigation, but I know people who know. So you ask them. And if they're too busy, they say, okay, I'm too busy, but Dr. So-and-so, okay, let's go. So then when you begin to do a book, usually the publisher will tell you, okay, you're writing a book with us. Okay, this is the format. So you give out the format to all the people who are writing. And remember that if your book is not a first edition, don't just look at the first edition and do a similar style, because this style may have changed. Okay, so carefully look at, just like the instructions to authors, you look at the book format. And especially this style of references, make sure you follow the format, and it's especially important to follow this style of references. And try to get from the organizer, try to find out, okay, you're doing early diagnosis, she's doing MRI. Try to find out what are the contents of her chapter so you don't end up writing the same thing. That if you write the same thing, I'm going to ask you to, could you change that, please? Extra work. And publication of an Indio book, CD-ROM. Now, if you do it by yourself, it's more difficult than working with other authors. But although it takes more time, it does give you the ability to choose the contents yourself. Right, now, when you decide to do a book, there's certain things that you should look at, especially with the publishing contract. Where and how will your name appear? How will the publisher distribute it? Possible translated edition rights. Who has the rights to the translation? Does the publisher have it or do you have it? Copyright aspects, text and figures. If a given number of books can be sold before printing, this is attractive for publishing companies. Now, ABC, the first book, well, no, the first book I translated was in 1973. A long time ago. But the first medical book I translated was 1980, and that was Practical Fiber Optic Bronchoscopy. And I was just working with my colleagues at Tokyo Medical University, so I'm not a business person. I don't ask you how much is it going to be or I'm going to charge you this. I enjoy working, so I work. But after finishing and after proofreading, I thought, how about my name? Will it go on the cover? I hope so. So the author picked up the phone and called the publisher. And he said, right, I want Patrick Barron's name on the cover. And they said no. They said that we have no contract with him. And so I had no contract. The publisher paid me no money. Also, they did it was the biggest Japanese English language medical book publisher, but they were very bad at distributing. I had people come up to me in Switzerland, at a meeting in Switzerland, saying, you translated the book on fiber optic bronchoscopy. How can I buy it? I want to buy it. I've been trying to get my university library to buy it. They can't buy it. And then it was translated into Chinese and into German. But that was not in the contract. So the publisher took all the... So these are the sort of things that you have to think about. How will your name appear? Is it going to be on the cover, on the inside page, or what? And money it's not the money, but still at the same time you want to get some recognition. I mean, it's silly for the publisher to take all the money. And if it's going to be translated, again, your name should appear on the cover. Translated by so and so. But this, again, is one of the easiest ways of making a big academic achievement. What you do is you get some people who are interested in the same general topic, and you decide to write CD-ROM or book. And many people believe that only 50, 60-year-old people can write books. No. Young people can do it. But you just need to make sure that the niche, Americans say niche, Europeans say niche. It means a small but important place. It literally means like a corner in the room in a house, something you like to design. In Japanese houses, the living room always has a small recess. In my house, we have about, the room is here, up to here, and this is wood here. And we can put a scroll, something painted or written, and maybe some flowers here. And you don't sleep on it, you don't sit on it, but it's a very important part of the house. A house without that is not really a house in Japan. So that's a niche. It's small, but it's important. So if there's something small, like for example, the ALK series, not every doctor in the world is going to be interested in that, but it's very important for a certain group of people. And a book on that would be very attractive. And again, this is where your network comes in, your Congress network of friends. You ask people that you know, or do you know somebody who can, right? And then you approach publishers, and if possible, with guaranteed number of pre-publication sales. Now, if it's a book on endoscopy, if you can get the endoscope manufacturer to promise to buy 300 books or 400 books, they can usually get a price of less than half. So for them, it's a very good investment. They can give it out to their customers. And it makes the printing cheaper. So the publisher, even before publishing, they already have a small profit. So if they sell more, they're going to have more of a profit. So they are motivated to do this. They like it. Believe me, I've been involved with many projects like this. And you've got to be sure that the writing schedule is reasonable. That's one problem I'm having with this interventional pulmonology thing just now. The first two papers, one of them has to be from Tokyo Medical University by the end of this month. So I've been telling this guy by email for the last week and a half saying, I want your introduction and abstract by Friday evening. That's tomorrow evening. So I can work on it on the plane going back. And then on Monday, I'll say, okay, where's the rest? Give me more now. You've got to push the people, but it would be better if I could give him one more month. But anyway, that's one problem is this schedule. Working with a foreign publisher or a publisher with close domestic publishing contacts is fine. A foreign publisher usually has the distribution system pretty good. Most Japanese publishers, or I think Korean publishers, do not have the international distribution network. And if you write it and it's printed and it's just lying there in boxes, there's no point. Editorials and essays. Now, these are usually normally but only by invitations. And for an editorial and essay, you must have a clearly expressed logical opinion, but also refer to the opinions of colleagues. For essays, you define the range and specificity of the contents, just like in an oral presentation. You say, I'm going to talk about this, 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 and this. Just like Klaus Rabe the other day, he had 4 points. He said, I'm going to talk about this, 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 this. And that's what he did. And the effectiveness and the applicability. You should be writing for other people, not just yourself. And readability is something, it's a skill that comes with practice. References and figures if allowed. Now, usually, abstracts cannot be considered as academic achievements. Nevertheless, if you're submitting an abstract for a congress, for example, the International Association for the Study of Lung Cancer, Depending on the area within lung cancer, it can be very competitive. So you really want to write, you really have to write an abstract that's going to be attractive. And tailor your abstract to your target vehicle. If they want a structured abstract, you give them a structured abstract. So that is about abstracts. And avoid all but common abbreviations. Limit the amount of data to ensure 100% comprehension. So in other words, if you have 100, give 80 and you'll get 100%. If you give 100 and try to squeeze it all in, it might be too dense for the audience. And have it checked by an experienced native-speaking editor. And abstracts, like letters, and like rapid communications, the acceptance is a yes or no decision, not any please revise. Okay, so you really have. And international congresses, right? Oral and poster presentations may be less valuable in themselves than written publication, but in terms of developing your own professional network, and I think that your own professional network is probably the most important thing you can make in your career, because it will enable you, it will enable your students and friends to develop in ways that just one paper cannot help. And it can also lead to really nice friendships. For example, twice I showed you the letter recommending referees, Dr. Cortez and Dr. Edel. Well, just last night I got an email from Dr. Edel. And he's at the Mayo Clinic. And the Mayo Clinic has some trip to Ireland. And so he sent me the itinerary of 2 trips to Ireland and said, which is better? Or do you have a better idea? Got nothing to do with medicine. He wants to have a good holiday in Ireland, so we'll see. Meeting other participants allows you to make friends, obtain information, and become acquainted with those who may be reviewers of your papers in future. Such a network is a goldmine. It's amazing how things can become much more easy with the people that you know. And I would say maybe even more so in Asia than in Europe, because in Europe, people are very fluid. In Asia, people tend to stay at one place for quite a long time and then move, but then stay there quite a long time. So you can get a lot of valuable information about that institution, about other people there, etc. So that's academic achievements other than original articles.